Hey there, fellow YouTube enthusiasts. Today, we're diving into a topic that might make you question your relationship with the news: why some people choose to tune out the 24/7 crisis narrative. Now, before you start thinking I'm some kind of media-avoiding hermit, let me assure you, I'm not here to judge. In fact, I'm here to explore the fascinating psychological reasons behind this behavior and why it's not just about avoiding the news, but about protecting your emotional well-being. So, grab your tea, settle in, and let's chat. Personally, I think the news has become a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it keeps us informed about the world around us. On the other, it can leave us feeling anxious and overwhelmed. What makes this really interesting is the psychological boundary some people have developed to protect themselves from the constant stream of crisis narratives. You see, the news isn't just about reporting facts. It's about creating a narrative that keeps you engaged and, in some cases, anxious. In my opinion, this is where the real story lies. The anxiety you feel after watching the news isn't accidental. It's designed to keep you coming back for more. The phrase, "if it bleeds, it leads," isn't just a catchy slogan. It's a strategy to keep viewers hooked. Fear is the product, and the 24-hour news cycle is all about keeping you activated and engaged. Now, let's talk about my personal experience. For years, I fell asleep with the TV on, constantly bombarded by breaking alerts and panel debates. I thought I was staying informed, but what I was really doing was manufacturing low-level anxiety. That's when I realized something profound. The news isn't just about what's happening, it's about how it makes you feel. Psychologists call this vicarious traumatization. The body doesn't always distinguish between watching a crisis and actually experiencing it. This is where the real anxiety comes from. Stepping away from the news isn't about being uninformed, it's about self-preservation. It's about recognizing that your emotional resources are finite and worth protecting. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. Setting limits on what you consume is a form of emotional wisdom. It's about understanding that boundaries aren't selfish. They're necessary for survival. People who deliberately limit their media consumption don't become less informed. They become more grounded and better able to engage with real issues in their communities. What many people don't realize is that staying informed doesn't always mean absorbing every piece of news. In fact, research shows that the vast majority of news stories covered with breathless urgency will be forgotten within a week. The things that genuinely shape our lives rarely get the airtime that conflict and catastrophe do. So, what does staying informed actually require? In my opinion, it's about being intentional. It's about seeking out slower, deeper sources of information. It's about reading rather than watching, and following specific topics that connect to your real life and community. It's about protecting the mental space needed to think, not just react. Now, let's talk about the impact of this on our civic health. A person who is chronically anxious and emotionally depleted is not well positioned to contribute meaningfully to anything. They're too busy surviving their own nervous system. This is where the concept of psychological boundaries comes in. Psychologists describe them as mental and emotional structures that allow us to engage with the world without being consumed by it. Choosing to limit or curate your news intake is exactly this kind of boundary. It's not withdrawal, it's selective engagement, a skill, not a character flaw. So, if you've stopped watching the news and felt quietly guilty about it, don't. You haven't tuned out, you've tuned in to something more important: the understanding that protecting your emotional equilibrium is what makes you capable of showing up, fully, for the things and people that actually need you. In conclusion, the news isn't just about what's happening, it's about how it makes you feel. By setting limits and curating your news intake, you're not just protecting your emotional well-being, you're also contributing to a healthier, more grounded society. So, the next time you feel the urge to tune out, remember, you're not avoiding the news, you're tuning in to something more important. And that's the real story behind the news.